If you want to finally understand how this seemingly mysterious thing called web development works and get an insight into the IT world without being overwhelmed by all these technical voodoo words, then this is the perfect video for you. In this video, I'm going to explain to you in a very simple language how web and web applications work and how all these technologies that you've heard about, like JavaScript, Java, databases, etc., fit in the whole picture. Imagine this scenario. You wake up in the morning, get your coffee, open your laptop, and open Facebook in your browser. So let's pause there. What happened when you typed in Facebook in your browser and you saw a fresh new feed with all the new stuff that has happened while you were asleep? What happened there in the background technologically? So Facebook is an application that some developers sitting mostly in California are developing. And these guys and gals are writing a bunch of code, and all the code that makes up Facebook lives in California. So what happens when you open Facebook on your laptop is that part of that code that lives in California travels all the way to your laptop, to your location, and ends up temporarily living on your laptop. That's why sometimes when you refresh and see a blank page or loading and you become annoyed because you can't see your feed within 3 seconds, that's when all the data is coming or traveling from somewhere to your laptop. So it may need some time. So how does that travel? There are internet cables everywhere in the world, actual physical cables that let electricity travel through from one place in the world to another. That's how everything is connected everywhere. So that's why some remote places in Africa or Asia where there's no internet and you're wondering, wow, like how is this possible? No internet, that's super crazy. But that's pretty simple because nobody built those internet cables near those areas because it wasn't worth it. So no internet. Now, if you think about it, it would be super inefficient if every time someone in Europe opened Facebook and all the data needed to travel to these places all the way from California. So Facebook has built locations evenly distributed all around the world that store part of the code and data that doesn't change much, so it can get to you much faster. Back to that part of code that just traveled to you. That's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what are these? When you see a website that just looks ugly, so it's just text, no fun colors, no styling, that's a naked HTML. It's necessary, but no one wants to see some plain ugly text without any styling. So what makes the text pretty and add colors and some fun to it is CSS. It's like flesh on a skeleton. Now you have a flesh that looks good, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move, it doesn't talk, doesn't respond, you can't interact with it. And it's the same way with HTML plus CSS page. Typical use cases are visit card websites where you can read text displayed in nice style, but you can't leave a comment, you can't send a message, you can't do anything with the website. So all that action comes purely from JavaScript. So you want to upload a photo on Facebook, that's JavaScript. You want to send a message through a messenger, that's JavaScript. You want to like your friend's picture or leave a comment, all JavaScript. So everything that you interact with in the UI, which stands for user interface, is through JavaScript. And the combination of these three, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, is called Frontend. It's the Facebook code that everyone sees, so it's in the front. And as I said, all these three files live on your laptop when you open Facebook, so you can see and even edit them. So I could go and change Facebook style like this, and this won't affect anyone else in the world since everyone has their own copy of these files on their laptops. But there is another part of the code that doesn't travel to you, the backend code that is in the back and no one can see. So you may be now wondering if I can do anything in frontend like upload images, message someone, leave a comment, like, what's the backend for? What does it do? Well, when you upload a picture on Facebook, you surely want your friends to see that too. Or when you message someone, you want to keep a history of these messages. That means you want all this data to persist, or in other words, the data to be saved over time. Now, if JavaScript only lives on your laptop, it wouldn't make sense to just have that photo only locally on your computer. That's where the backend comes in. So what happens is that JavaScript takes that image that you uploaded, puts it in an envelope and hands it over to internet saying, hey, can you deliver this to backend at this specific location? So now we can follow this delivery all the way to the backend and see what happens there, or what does backend do when it gets that image. Now backend code can be written in Java, Python, PHP, or even JavaScript. So there are different technologies that you can use to write all that backend part of the code. So let's say in our example it's Java. So what does Java do? It checks and examines the photo. It sees, is it a valid delivery? There's no threat, no danger. I know the sender, I trust it, so I'll open the envelope. Sees everything is fine and hands it over to database to save it for later. So database is like a warehouse. It's a big space where you can keep all the images, messages, likes, comments that different users are producing. It's all in there. So to have a more specific understanding, let's actually see how the location where backend code and database live, quote unquote, actually look like. So as I mentioned before, Facebook has all these buildings distributed all around the world, actual physical buildings with servers inside. And I don't know what you imagine when you think about servers, but whatever it is, it's probably not very close to reality. So let me show an example of a server building of a typical big company like Facebook. So it's a location where machines, they're interconnected with each other, are running 24/7 in order to make sure that Facebook or this application is available for everybody in the world all the time. And that's where backend code and database actually live. So that's where all the magic happens. So when that envelope gets delivered to your backend, that's where it ends up. So the address that it's sent to is one of those machines in among these hundreds or thousands of machines that will take your image, validate it, and then save it into a database. So it happens all inside there. So now consider your friend logs into Facebook on her computer. Same way, frontend code travels to her laptop along with new data like images, messages from friends, etc., all coming from these servers. So how does Facebook know what data you should see on your newsfeed? Now, in the database warehouse, Facebook creates isolated spaces for each user with their personal data, images, etc. And obviously on Facebook, you want to have some privacy, meaning you want only your friends to see your posts. So Facebook creates connections in the database between users that are friends. And that's how Facebook decides what information to send to a user when they log into the application. Along with new data like images and messages from friends, including the image that you just uploaded, all coming from these servers. So to summarize, a web application is always made up of three components. You have a front-end code, backend, and database. Front-end is what you see and interact with in your browser in the user interface of the application. Backend is the code that waits for new messages from front-end about the changes you make, like new uploads, new messages, likes, and handles them. And database is where all these changes are stored for future usage, like when you come back the next day to use the application or when your friend opens the application. Most of the applications are written by teams of developers and not just a single developer. And there are a lot of developers that are full stack, meaning they know all three. They can work with front-end, back-end, and database. However, each of these three areas alone is its own IT field. So some developers actually choose to specialize in just one area and become, for example, a front-end developer. So in big companies like Facebook, you would have teams with specialized front-end developers, back-end developers, and database developers. So what this means for you is that if you're just starting off as a web developer or you're thinking about becoming a web developer, you should choose just one of these three areas as a starting point, learn it well, and then move on to other technologies. And a good starting point is usually front-end. because it's more visual and you can see the results immediately. Having said that, I'm starting a JavaScript tutorial series for beginners on my channel. So if you want to learn JavaScript from my videos, then subscribe to my channel and you'll be notified whenever I upload new JavaScript videos.